we're going to move on. We're going to talk about his powers for a little bit as well. Okay, so but before we do, we should always remember that in the Lord of the Rings, it's not high fantasy like Harry Potter, and it is based in the world which would eventually become our Earth. So the laws of physics are in place and they are followed for the most part the same way as in our own world. So
apart from Legolas, of course, he doesn't follow the laws of physics.
Not at all. Like, he's got his own whole thing going on. He just lives in an alternate dimension.
Yeah, standing on snow, jumping up fallen rocks. He does it all. Climbing up a horse in the opposite direction.
I reckon Orlando Bloom could be like that in real life.
Yeah,
I've never met him.
That's probably true.
It seems like something that he would be able to do. So anyway, the word magic then, I suppose, if we take that word, it's often very subtle in Lord of the Rings and in Tolkien's writing. It's not it's not like people shooting fireballs out their arse or anything like that. Like, it's not.
That's what I do after a heavy night of Mexican food.
Oh yeah, exactly. I made my own hot sauce recently. Actually,
I saw that.
Never
yeah.
told you. Oh, did you?
You did.
Oh yeah.
And
did I? Oh, I did.
Would you like to share the name of this hot sauce?
I will not. I will keep that to myself. Trademarking and all that. I'm gonna make a whole brand.
Yeah, very good. I'm excited to taste it.
No, I will. I'll tell people. I called it Johnny's "How's Your Arse" hot sauce, because that's what you need to ask each other the following day after you eat. You're like, "How's your arse?" You're like, "Oof, it's not great now. The hot sauce is pretty bad." So anyway, moving on from my hot sauce. What was it?
How's your head?
Something about Saruman. So anyway, sometimes it's not easy to see the powers of the wizards, like Gandalf as well. Sometimes we don't know exactly what his powers are, and he has a lot of very subtle powers that maybe go unnoticed. So some people might think that this is a bit of a missed opportunity, and it could be cool to have wizardly powers like the genie in Aladdin or something. But personally, I definitely prefer it this way. And even if sometimes you're not sure if something was just like mere luck or if it was actually magic, it's kind of cool to have that, like, oh, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of magic involved there.
Yeah.
So Saruman is portrayed as being of great knowledge, and some of his actions may have been perceived as crazy magic by people who lived in that time. But the reality is just a lot of his powers were just science ahead of his time, because he was known for making devices such as bombs.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, and Green is just like, how can this bring down stone? What are you talking about? This is madness.
Bring down stone. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So that's a lot of it as well. So and even Gandalf admits that it was thanks to the devices of Saruman that Dol Guldur was destroyed. So we don't get too much more information about that, but that's kind of cool as well. He was like Da Vinci,
Einstein.
like he was like the Da Vinci of his time. Yeah, and he was just thinking up these inventions beyond the realms of imagination of the others. So, he's a real Renaissance man, I suppose. Saruman.
Leonardo da Vinci.
But apart from these acts of intelligence, he also did possess gifts that some may consider unnatural. And what's the one that stands out, Dave, when I say what are Saruman's powers?
I don't know. Intelligence?
When you just think of Saruman compared to like more than Gandalf, for example, he definitely has one. It's an entire chapter dedicated to it. Go on black. I'll help you out.
Give me a clue.
There's a chapter entitled "The Voice of Saruman."
Oh, right. Okay. His manipulation and being able to like overpower someone with his own voice, or just the fact that his voice is so powerful. Try not to listen to his voice because he can manipulate you.
No, I'm just talking about he's a tenor and he's an amazing singer.
He is an amazing singer.
The voice of Saruman.
The voice of
that
Lee.
lad. He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, the voice of Christopher Lee is incredible.
I listened to that. I'm not sure if I sent them to you or not. Like ages ago, like him singing about the doors of Durin.
You always do that.
I know, yeah. I think, does he have a song about the doors of Durin?
Yeah, he does. It's class.
Oh, it's so cool.
His voice is unbelievable. Yeah.
And
we're speaking about Christopher Lee to people now. We're not actually just about Saruman, but Christopher Lee is Saruman. So there you go.
What a perfect casting.
Amazing, yeah. So that is the one power that's like really kind of unique, I suppose, to Saruman. They call it the voice of Saruman,
right, yeah.
And it's and as I said, we get an entire chapter in the Fellowship of the Ring entitled "The Voice of Saruman." And so we know that he could speak to almost anyone on Middle Earth and convince them to do whatever he wanted. and he was just extremely convincing, and he could make anything sound believable. Like, he could tell the most staunch atheist that no, there is a God, and that person would immediately join the priesthood. It's just like, all right, okay, I believe it completely, and
it's just Jedi mind tricks. That's what he has, like, basically. These are not the droids you are looking for.
Count Dooku, just
yeah, exactly.
Christopher Lee again. So we also see then what Tolkien calls actual spells, when we see that he ensnares the mind of King Theoden of Rohan, where he says the king, quote, fell into decline under the spells of Saruman. So there we actually hear the word spells. So Tolkien, for once, making it more obvious, I suppose. And we don't know if it's because of spells, but he has also convinced all of the Dunlending men to go to war with Rohan. And he also keeps an army of these insane mini monsters in check, including wargs. So he's got to be pretty convincing and powerful and, authoritarian to be able to, lead these types of huge armies and, have them, to not have them revolt and not have them kind of turn against him, I suppose.
Yeah, I always thought of that as, I know I forgot it at the time, but the voice of Saruman, when you said, like, what is his biggest power or something, I was just trying to think of some sort of magic spell thing. But yeah, the whole voice of Saruman thing, I always kind of, even him poisoning the mind of Theoden and him, like, casting spells on Theoden, but it's all kind of done through Grima in a way, and I always imagined it's like Saruman's voice is so strong it's passing through another person to manipulate Theoden and actually put a spell on him. And I kind of put that down to the same level of magic and the same kind of way he can convince the Dunlendings to attack Rohan and
like how he eventually like captures the mind of Theoden. It's not just like cast a quick spell on him. It's a lot of like sowing seeds of self-doubt into Theoden. So Theoden just doesn't believe that he's the right man to lead, and he's got like all this it's really, really cool. It's way more complex than we just and poof, you're under my spell. And again, I remember I used to think of the voice of Saruman as like he was really good at hypnosis, and you just cast a little put you into a trance. But I'm going to read something here as well, actually a passage from the Tolkien Gateway speaking about his powers, and we're going to see that it's not actually that way. It's not actually just as obvious as hypnosis. It's actually, after reading this, I thought it was kind of cool. It's even better. So reading here from Tolkien Gateway, it says, knowledge of the deep arts or magic, such as it is in Middle-earth, was of particular interest to Saruman, especially when relating to power such as the Rings of Power and the far-seeing Palantiri. He was also deeply learned in ancient lore regarding powerful kingdoms such as Numenor, Gondor, and Moria. His voice and speech were extremely convincing, more powerful than mere rhetoric. When he focused this power on a person or a group of people, he could sway their hearts, plant fears, and sow lies as he pleased. According to the stature of the listener, this spell could last as long as the speech did, or it could take root in them and last forever. Saruman's voice was so powerful that he was able to convince the Witch King that he knew nothing of the One Ring or the Shire. His voice was not hypnotic, however, rather it was persuasive, and the real danger the voice posed to the listener was not them falling into a trance, but agreeing with it. Aside from his voice, Saruman had other subtle abilities, such as giving great speed and motivation to his orcs at a distance and setting his will against all those in his dominion that might oppose him. Aragorn takes note of this ability while tracking the party of orcs holding Merry and Pippin hostage. Saruman also seems to be able to move around totally unheard by others, as there are numerous examples of him using this ability. Several examples include him sneaking up on Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas's camp in the Riders of Rohan chapter, this wholly unheard entrance in the Voice of Saruman chapter, and his quiet but sudden appearance to the hobbits in the Scouring of the Shire chapter. Other powers include knowledge of machinery and chemistry, probably separable from explicit magic, for instance, the blasting fire, quote, which was employed by his Uruk-hai army in the Battle of Helm's Deep, was some kind of chemical explosive. His science also extended into biological areas. He is believed to have crossbred men and orcs, creating a new race of orcs unafraid of daylight. The dreaded Uruk-hai, a major improvement on Sauron's thralls who hated daylight. His mannish spies in Bree were said to have orc blood, giving them heightened senses over ordinary men. He also employed scavenger birds in his service. and being regarded as more powerful than Gandalf, at least before Gandalf became Gandalf the White, it's fair to assume he would also wield explicit magic similar to Gandalf, such as artificial light, locking spells, and creating fire, etc. So, as I said, that was from the Tolkien Gateway. So I thought that was pretty cool, especially we got into more of a list of just his powers there. But at the beginning, speaking about his voice, where he was saying how it's not really, it doesn't put people into a trance. It makes people actually believe what he's saying and agree with him. And so he's just like a really amazing speaker, like a politician or an incredible salesperson or something. You come out of a meeting with a salesperson and be like, no, I need to buy this because
I do want to give him my 2 arms.
Right, yeah. But just like you're like, no, this would be a really good idea to do this. Like, so that's what's really kind of cool.
And like, so, I do think Peter Jackson, obviously, just you have to commend him on everything he's done for The Lord of the Rings. But again, just the casting of Sir Christopher Lee has an extremely powerful voice. But like the things he does, even when Saruman is attacking the Fellowship when they're on Caradhras, and like he's doing it through his voice, and you actually feel the power of his voice. Like Gandalf is like, there's an echo in the air, or someone says there's a fell voice in the air. I can't remember.
Legolas.
And then Gandalf is like, it's Saruman, and then
that's such a class scene.
Yeah, but
you
like
gotta watch that with like
it.
good surround sound speakers. Like, it's just
and like you just feel it's like almost a power of his voice, like coming from his mouth and going all the way to Caradhras. And it's almost like the spell is coming from his own voice, and he's convincing the weather to attack the Fellowship.
It's amazing, yeah.
How good is that?
I absolutely love the scene when Gandalf arrives at Orthanc as well. And it's narrated by Christopher Lee. And he's like, the moon sets on the Shire, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard.
And then it changes.
And then it changes, because that's
that's him speaking into a microphone like this, and then it's like, is that not why you have come?
Exactly. And he's up on the stairs like, is that not why you have come?
Oh, it's so
my
good.
old friend.
Yeah, I want to watch it right now.
Oh, God, yeah. Straight after we record, we're turning on the Fellowship of the Ring.
Marathon.